Welcome to The Game Changer with Dr. Sherilyn, where purpose meets performance and leaders are built to shift legacies. I'm Dr. Sherilyn Payne, executive strategist, speaker, and the secret weapon behind leaders who drive transformation at the highest levels. Each episode delivers bold truths, power skills, and real-world strategies to help you lead with precision, show up with presence, and build the kind of influence that outlasts trends. This is the space where high-impact decisions are born, where influence is intentional, and where the bold don't just lead, they change the game. So if you're ready to rise, ready to lead, and ready to create the kind of impact that moves markets, missions, and minds, you're in the right place. Welcome, Game Changers, to another dynamic episode where we're talking about the things that actually matter. As you know, on this podcast, we talk about leadership, we talk about reinvention, we talk about transformation. And guess what? We're going to talk about all of that today. I have one of my favorite people in the whole world. I actually just met him earlier this year, but he's left an indelible mark on my life. And so I actually reached out to him and asked him if he would come on and talk to us about leadership. When I tell you, this man has some foundational principles that you need to be able to build a strong house. Now, I say that not just talking about it, because if you know me, I live, eat, and breathe leadership. But if your foundation is shaky, everything else is rocky. And so we want to ensure that we're providing you with the tools, the practical tools that you need to be able to build a team and an organization that lasts and stands the test of time. So with that, I'm going to call him Elder because he's a pastor, right? It's nothing like having a man of God in your presence. Daniel Jones. Daniel, welcome.
Hey, Dr. Sherilyn, thank you for having me. I'm telling you, when you were introducing me, I had no idea who you were talking about.
You are so silly.
I'm like, who, me?
Yes,
But listen,
you.
it's so good to be here.
I am absolutely thrilled that you said yes. That's what it's all about. So tell us who you are and tell us about the work that you do with leaders.
Yes, I'm Daniel Jones, and I am the founder of One Motion. One Motion is a firm or a company where it mainly talks about taking action, right? And so we deal with leadership. We talk about taking action, determination, commitment, all the leadership traits, all balled up. I call it one, right? That's why my company's called One Motion, because you can't have one without the other. You know, all the characteristics and behaviors of leadership. We need to engulf it all, right? We need to be oneness, right? Oneness with God, one spirit, one body, one Lord, one spirit, right? So I believe that even in leadership, it's about being one, and you need to be able to master and continue to grow and develop in each characteristic or virtue of leadership. And so I am a leadership development speaker, trainer, and coach, and I work with schools, businesses, companies, ministries, and I work with their teams to build their leadership, teach leadership, coach leadership, to help develop their teams.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Let's get into it.
All
So
right.
let's go. When we think about leadership, what is it that you think is missing from leaders today?
The main thing I think that's missing from leaders is the relationship component.
I was hoping you were going to say that because you told me that before, and I knew I had to have you all here. I was like, uh-oh. Let's
Yes,
go.
yes. It's that relationship component, because leadership is more about, it's not about just position, right? The title that you have. And sometimes leaders lean so much on their title. You know, you can either lead by fear, right? Or you can lead because people want to follow you. And it's a difference, you know, to being forced or want to. And just because you have the title does not necessarily mean you have the leadership traits or capabilities to lead well. And so you have to build that relationship component. I believe that relationship component, when you have a relationship with your employees, with your team members, again, it doesn't mean that you have to be all buddy buddy and go out every weekend and eat and drink and do things like that. But you can have a good, healthy work relationship, working together, showing them that you care about them, that you care about their well-being first. And when you can show them that you care about their well-being first, that you ask about their children. You ask them, hey, what did you do this weekend? That small talk, right? It means a lot. It shows your team members, it shows that employee that you actually care. And so when you can build that healthy working relationship with your team members, with your employees, in turn, that's going to increase the performance. They're going to want to work for you. They're going to wake up and feel good coming to the job, feel good coming to the company. If they had to do it all over again, if they had the choice of picking who they want their manager to be, who they want their supervisor to be, they're going to choose you because of the relationship you have built with them. Now, that doesn't mean you are to just exempt the accountability and the relationship or the responsibility and the knowledge piece. Those are all important as well. But that relationship piece, being able to pour into them and show them that you care, I'm telling y'all, they will move mountains for you when they know you got their back.
Absolutely. I truly agree with what you shared. I remember years ago, I worked in an organization and the leader never knew anything about me personally. Now, I will say also with that, I worked at other companies before that, and I wasn't really excited to be sharing personal information. So I will say that. So I wasn't upset that she didn't do it, but I was absolutely on guard if people did ask that. I went to one organization and I will never forget this man. I talk about him all the time, Kirk. And Kirk was the leader who was just so personal. And he would
Mm,
always ask, Sherilyn, what you do this weekend? And I, normally would have my little answer of what I did the weekend. Oh, nothing, just ran to the grocery store. Oh, nothing, just made something, just very generic, right?
mm,
To protect myself. But with Kirk, he was so relatable that I would actually share the real things I did that weekend. Oh, I went to the movies and, I saw this, and he was a movie buff. And so we would be able to talk and connect with that. Totally changed how I viewed not only him, but the organization, the team. It was a safe space. And I think for us to be able to do that, you've got to figure out you're not going to be judged. And I say that because I've worked with some leaders who I've had to coach. And I remember telling a person, what you're sharing on the weekend is so unrelatable to the average person that they're looking at you as more distant than working with them. They would ask her, she was a beautiful woman. And so they would ask her, what did you do this weekend? And she dressed nice too. So it was really hilarious because she was in coaching. And they would ask her, what did she do for the weekend? Oh, I was out with my horses, riding horses. I was out, went to this wine tasting, and it wasn't really a wine tasting. Like she had, I can't even think of the term what they call the people who are really, knowledgeable about wine. So she was one of those individuals, right? And she actually did it for a living at one point. And so Smalley, I can't remember, but whatever it was, the term for that, I was doing that this weekend and I was, all of these things. It was something that was so over people's heads. It was absolutely, just unrealistic. Oh, I took a 3-day weekend and I, got on my private plane and went here. I'm like, lady, you need to dial it back. You're not building relationships with these people at all because you're coming here looking like you're a runway model
mm,
and you have these totally unrelated experiences. So you have to find a way to connect with your team because they were her team. And so you got to find how to build a relationship and really connect with them. Do you have any nieces, any nephews, any friends that you supported their children, right? And you went to maybe a sports event and you played with them. You played auntie for the weekend. What are the everyday things? And
yeah.
not saying that you can't share who you are,
Hmm.
but what they're looking for and what you're needing is to figure out how to connect with them so that they can, as you say, deliver. Because all they're seeing now is that they don't relate to you, you don't understand them, and there's this friction all day long. So how would you, coach a person through something like that?
So one thing I fully understand is that, like in your situation, that example you just gave, she wanted to put herself on a pedestal, looking down, as if we have the mindset of the old school ways of I'm the supervisor or superior, right? And you're inferior, right? You're my
That's good.
subjects or you're my employees. that mindset is so dead. It's gone. You will lose people so fast. The mindset a good leader should have is that even though I have the title of a supervisor, we are a team. We are in this together. There's no I, there's no you, there's a we. We are in this together. A good leader does this. When things are going well and great, the leader don't take the recognition. They
Right.
push the team in front of them. No, my team gets all the recognition. Without my good team, without the team that's doing so well and knocking out these numbers and rocking it, it wouldn't be no me. So they push
Right.
the team in front. When there's some trouble in the water, when things may not be going so well, the leader pushes the team to the back, and the leader takes that forefront, and they take the brunt hits. They take it on. That's a leader because we're in this together. So leaders have to know when to lead from in front or behind and understand that I'm not over you or above you just because I have a title. No, we on even plane. We're gonna work this thing out together. I have an opinion, you have an opinion, and I want to hear it. I have suggestions, you have suggestions. I want to hear it. You have great, phenomenal ideas. I want to hear it because your idea is what's going to help take this team to another level. So we're in this thing together. All I do as a leader, I help guide and facilitate. That's what leaders do. They have vision, but they also guide and facilitate the team because we are all really on the same plane.
I love that. That's powerful. The visual that I got here, and I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. But the visual that I got was a man and a woman walking.
Mm.
And I'm going to do this just because I believe, number one, men and women walking. So it's my podcast. So a man and a woman are walking.
And I can do what I want with it.
Right. A man and a woman are walking. And let's say something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so women, stop. I don't want you to be messaging me or talking about equality. Just go with the example. He really loves this woman. We're going to say that it's a couple. And he really loves his wife, girlfriend, whatever. He sees danger approaching. He gets in front and he pushes her behind him so that he can take the hit, right? The good leader, even in that aspect. I'm taking the hit, not saying you can't protect yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
I love you so much that I'm willing to put myself in danger to
Yeah.
ensure that you are okay. Not saying that you need a hero, but that's what leaders do, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you want to take that brunt, you shield your team and protect your team. And so often what I see, perhaps you have as well, and you can speak to this, is that leaders don't. They allow their team, to own the mistake. They allow the person on their team and not saying, hey, my team would have done this or could have done this had we had XYZ, had your team done XYZ, right? It's collaborating and building those relationships with your peer. But what I see more often than not these days is that leaders are leaving their teams out to dry because it's all about self preservation. I'm going to protect me. I'm going to make sure I look good. I'm going to make sure that people know I had this idea instead of, you know what? Yeah, that is a great idea. Daniel on my team actually mentioned this during a team meeting, and I wanted to bring it to the organization. You're still giving Daniel the credit, but the insecurity says that, you know, well, I got to steal Daniel's shine, his information, make me look good instead of realizing you brought Daniel on the team. And if you didn't hire Daniel, you didn't find Daniel, he's still on your team. He could have left because he has a choice.
Come on. Come on. That's
So,
that's right on the money. I cringe when I see leaders, and I really don't even want to call them leaders. They're not leaders. Anytime
agree.
you throw, as they say, throw people under the bus, right? You know that term that we use it a whole lot, right?
Right.
Throwing people under the bus, not taking the blame, but always pointing fingers, pointing fingers, pointing fingers. So if you are only as good as your team and you are in the hot seat because the numbers or whatever, the performance is not well, why are you pointing the fingers when it's your job to develop your team?
Right.
It's your job to pull them up. It's
Right.
your job to teach them and pour into them. But you have the audacity to point the fingers because you're lacking one or two things versus just taking the brunt hit and say, you know what, we're going to do better. You know what, I'm working on some things. Just give me some time, right? I cringe. I cannot, I can't stand leaders like that. it really does something to my soul, right? They're just filling up a seat and holding a position, and the team will never move forward, will never grow and develop again under that person. I can't even say under that leadership, under that person. Leaders know when to take the front, lead from the front. Leaders know when to lead from behind. A leader cares about their team. They protect their team. It's like they're babies, right? It's like a parent to a child, right? Even though I protect my team and even though I take the brunt hit, when I go back to the team meeting and say, hey, y'all, we need to meet. Oh, I get with them. I let them know, I correct them, and I work with them, and I develop them, and I let them know, hey, I took this for y'all. I even may let them know I took this hit for you all. Even though I know one of you may have been the problem, but it's all good. It's okay because I'm here to work with you and make you better. That's relationship building. When your team knows, oh, Mr. Jones, he took that hit for me. He could have got written up. Okay. I can't. Okay, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. The wheels get to turning in their head. They start thinking like, hey, this guy really cares about me. Because other managers that I had in the past, other so-called leaders, they would have quickly gave up my name. They would have quickly written me up or disciplined me. That's not good leadership. If you want to build that relationship, I'm telling y'all, take a few hits and they're gonna be all in. You gotta get the buy-in. And the way to get the buy-in is through healthy relationships.
I agree with what you're sharing. When I go back to thinking about that leader Kirk, that's one of the things that he would actually do. And I'll never forget when he was going through something at the organization. He was walking around, and I finally asked him one day. I said, "Hey, let me ask you something. Why are you walking around like somebody stole your dog?" And so, and so he was like, what are you talking about?" And I said, "You're not your happy self." I said,
Hmm.
"I am. You're totally different. I've allowed you to walk around here for a few weeks, and your disposition is totally different. I want to know what's happening and why you're looking like this." I said, "Who did it? To point them to me. Let me go find who did it."
Let me
And
at
so,
him.
right, exactly. And so he started laughing. And he said, "Well, I'm going to share this with you. They want me to be over the all of HR.
Hmm.
I don't want to be over all of HR here at this organization. I only want to be over our team because we built something phenomenal together. And they're trying to force me to be over all of HR or leave. And I'm trying to weigh, what do I want to do?" And so I said, "Well, you know what's going to happen if you leave? They're going to have to build a whole new function because everybody loves you in the talent management organizational effectiveness space. And so people are going to leave the organization. This team is going to be shaky. It's going to
Hmm.
be a skeleton crew here because of your leadership."
Hmm.
And so everybody began to work and, really do things and, really kind of work for Kirk to stay. And he eventually ended up going somewhere else. And exactly what I predicted would happen happened. People left the
Wow.
organization because he was that strong and great of a leader. They
Wow.
had followed him. He was from Iceland. I want to say Iceland. I think they had followed him from Iceland to the States, to other places. And so that goes and talks back to someone's leadership capability, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do they actually see him? I'll never forget, when you think about the integrity and building relationships, this is how great of a relational person he was. And I do want to ask you to give some tips and strategies for us to build relationships. But Kirk, decided to pledge Omega Sci-Fi.
Ah, too bad. No, I'm just
Right,
joking.
exactly. So Omega Sci-Fi. Now, this is what was interesting in the power of relationship in the workplace and what you just shared with us. He wanted to pledge Omega Sci-Fi. He had come to the United States on a college campus. He sees these men, and they are Omega Sci-Fis. And he finds this out or whatever, and he's asking them, "Why do you carry yourself so differently? And why do you do this? And how are you so strong?" And all of these characteristics that he admired. He asked a couple of guys. They say, "Oh, we're Omega Psi Phi. We're in this fraternity." So he learns about the fraternity and decides to pledge. They allow him to pledge. Well,
Okay.
he's an older gentleman, Caucasian man. And
Ah.
so when it was time to cross, they wouldn't cross him.
Oh.
So he had gone through all of the hazing and all of the things, and they couldn't cross him.
Mm.
Fast forward 20, 30 years, he comes to this organization He meets a African American man. He's telling him his story, and that man is a Kappa. And he says, "Well, you could have just pledged grad chapter if you're that passionate about it all these years." Why? He said, "I never knew about a thing." And he
Mm-hmm.
told him how you start going around them, start serving, start doing this, and just do that for a couple of years and see what happens. He did it every single weekend, and they invited him to pledge at an older
Wow.
person Omega Psi Phi. So he pledges
Wow.
Omega Psi Phi. And so it's funny because he said, "I would have never known about that had I not built the relationship with Bobby."
Mm.
Building the relationship with Bobby told me about grad chapter. It was a dream that I had that had been unfulfilled and a yearning for so long. And so I was like, wow. And I noticed it because in his office, I mean, walking down the hall one day, I kind of walked past his office and I saw that he had on like a purple. And I was like, wait a minute, I cannot possibly be seeing my, like, I know this is not happening. There's a bad backup. And I was like, okay, so what we doing now? And he's
Right.
like, yeah. I said, so you a cute dog? And he was like, I'm not a cute dog. I'm an Omega man. I was like, okay, well, watch yourself now. Like, bring it all the way down.
I
Bring it all the
love
way
it.
down. You get too fancy.
Right.
But it just goes back to, right, relationships, being able
Hmm.
to notice what's happening in his life because I'm paying attention. Any other leader, I wouldn't have said a word, wouldn't have even cared what was happening, to be honest. But because of the level of leadership, relationship, connection, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know how his weekend was going. I was very aware that when I stepped in the room, I took our team with me in how I interacted with other people because I wanted him to shine. I wanted him to win and to win big.
Come
And
on.
so I, moved differently in that organization. Now,
Hmm.
after that, I went somewhere else and totally different experience, right? But they never fostered the relationship. So give us some concrete strategies that leaders can use, whether it's the church, whether it's the workplace, whether it's a sports teams. And I don't know if you need to differentiate the leadership, but how can we build relationships? Because I know there's some different dynamics there, especially if we're talking about pastor and church and those type of things. So just kind of help us out. What are some relationship tools and techniques that you use or that you've seen work?
Sure, sure. Now, breaking it up into sports, business, ministry, how much time you.
Maybe all the same. It could be all the same.
So I'll give you some that can kind of work across the board.
Yes.
One is that I'm good at using, and I set aside whatever the business is, or the ministry is, or the practice, whatever it is, set it to aside for a few minutes. Set it aside for a few minutes.
Hmm.
Let's talk. How was your day? How was your week? What good happened this week? There's so much negative things that are happening in the world, right? Every day, all you see is negativity, right? Something bad, somebody died, this happened, accident, prison. It's just so much download of negativity, right? And so when I open up the floor for that, I curve it. I don't want to hear the bad news, right? Even though I'm open to it, but this segment, this next 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 is just set aside to what good happened this week. And
Hmm.
so me
Good.
getting to know my people, right? We talking about people getting married or engaged, people having babies, people going back to school. So you learn so much about your team members, whether it's in ministry, again, your players on a sports team or at work. You're learning so much about them because they're sharing nothing but good news. You're learning other skill sets they have, other hobbies they may be good at, other gifts they may have. So you're learning so much. Parents, their kids, their grandkids, what they like to do, and so you connect that way because everyone is sharing something good that happened. And so
That's
I
so
found
good.
out to work out very well because now you're building that relationship. Now in team meetings, before we even get to the business, we talk about something good. But even though we move into the business, right, or move into ministry, or move into that practice for the day, they're able to receive your instructions that much more better because they know you care for them. Y'all laughed, y'all joked. Now it's time for the business, but they can receive correction, right? Better. Do I discipline? or official write-ups, right? I rarely had to do that. Have I done it? Yeah, but I rarely have to because I built a relationship. Sometimes I can just let them know, hey, I can correct them this way. I let them know it's okay to make a mistake. As you talked
That's
about
good.
earlier, coming down, meeting them where they at. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. So how can I expect you to be perfect? I'm not going to go all off the rooftop just because you made a mistake. Most of the time, the mistakes can be fixed. So if you made a mistake, okay, you made a mistake, let me know. This is how you correct it. I'll work with you to correct it. I don't want you fear making a mistake.
That's
How can
good.
you grow? How can you be better? It's okay. So one of the things again, I like to open up with just some casual talk. What happened? I call it good news. Share some good news this week. Another way that I can help build that relationship piece, I alluded to it earlier where I'm saying I'm not perfect. There's some things I need to work on. So just like I have expectations of you, working with you as a sports player or even in ministry or on the job, there I have expectations, right? There's a certain level I want you to reach. And I reach for high performers. That's just how I am. I'm built that way. I'm always reaching to perform at a high level, right? I try to come down a little bit. No, my job is to pull you up, right? And so one way is just like I have expectations of you, you have the right to have expectations of me as a pastor, as an elder, as a coach, whether in sports or a life coach, as a supervisor, as a CEO, as a COO, as a CFO, right? All the C's, right? You have the right to have expectations of me. And so what I did a survey. I gave it to my team members and like, look here, be brutally honest. And if you don't want to sign it, you don't have to. But most of them didn't have a problem signing their name to it. And I asked them different questions of how can I improve, right? What can I do to meet what are your expectations? What can I do to meet your expectations? Do I need to be a better communicator, right? Do I need to meet with you more? Am I too hardcore, right? How's my tone when I talk to you? Do I need to change up my
Oh,
tone?
that's good. That's
I ask
good.
all these things because sometimes my tone can be intimidating. So I may need to soften up a little bit, right? Talk about the fruit of the spirit, right? Gentleness, goodness, right? Being meek, humble, right? So I asked them to judge me, do a survey on me, do an assessment on me, ways I can improve so I can be a better leader for you as a team. So those are two. Need some more?
Well, I want to just say that what you've shared is it's so good. It's so rich in information if we were just to apply it, right?
Yeah.
Having the emotional intelligence to be able to ask someone and the maturity, what do you think about me? Understanding that you can have expectations of them, but they can have expectations of you
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to ask the questions. And that's good. I was speaking with someone today and she was sharing that somebody on her team did something and she didn't really want to address that particular
Mm-hmm.
issue that the person, did, right? And she mentioned, she said, my tone. I know it was my tone when I reflected, but it wasn't that important to me to be able to address.
Mm-hmm.
And so just thinking about our tone can matter because you never know what's going on with the other person and what they're currently dealing with. They are humans. So they get sick and they have children who may be having some challenges and
Yes.
they could be having marital or friendship issues, financial issues, all of these things that happen, right? Childhood issues,
Yes.
that they're bringing into the workplace. And we never understand how much harm and damage we can do if the
Mm-hmm.
person is not fully healed.
Yeah.
But we don't look at it from that lens of being a person to grow them, grow ourselves, treat them with basic humanity. But here's what else I heard you share: being vulnerable.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I, heard you say or mention. You didn't use that word specifically, but you're vulnerable with them, and that connects us. So it goes back to the relationship. When I think about the people who I am closest to, it's the ones that I feel like I can be vulnerable with. I could say, you know what? I totally screwed that up. I totally messed that up. Or here's how I'm feeling right now. And I haven't shared this with anybody.
Yeah.
And it has made our relationship even the stronger. But those who are everything is great in their life all the time and they're never vulnerable, you feel that kind of like, what's happening here? And maybe they just don't want to share it with you, right? So that could be a possibility. But why? Why is that? It could be who they are. But what I hear you saying is that that can make all the difference in the relationship, in the results that you're able to get from that person, not
Yes.
expecting them to be perfect, allowing them to make mistakes. Have you always been this person, or how did you get to be this type of leader? This is what I want to know. And how do we get more of you?
Woo, I'm talking about years of learning, growing, developing, mistakes. Woo, my mistakes. Oh, woo, that's a
Can you
book.
share a story with us? Can you give us a story of something that was a game changer for you, but perhaps in your leadership experience or even just your working experience that really kind of set you down this path?
Well, me growing up, two-parent household, and my characteristics and behavior is kind of similar to my parents, right? They were raised in, well, they weren't raised in church, but I was raised in church. And they were in church and they had a certain level of excellence, the way they moved, performed, spoke, expectations of living this Christian life, living a godly life. And me, myself, I can't say that I've seen them make many mistakes, right? I didn't see it. I'm sure they probably made plenty. But as a child, I probably did, probably went over my head. And so I grew up that way too. Like, I strive for perfection. Everything I did, I was in a band from elementary school all the way through college. Top band, top drummer. My senior year, top drummer in the state of Illinois. Right. And so, in the best fraternity, oldest and the coldest, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Right. And so I was on the leadership boards at my school, right, at Western Illinois University, the local chapter. I was also vice president at Black Student Association. I was the president of the National Panhellenic Council, the local chapter. So I'm in all the leadership positions. I get to the workforce, doing well. I take what I do serious. But it gotten to the point to where me being on these leadership boards and me striving for perfection is good, but you don't want to get too puffed up or too arrogant.
Hmm.
And when you make that mistake, right? When you make that mistake, it comes at you so hard because people try to tell you, right? I didn't think I was arrogant. I thought I was just confident, and people will, or God has a way, right, of humbling you. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
God has a way of humbling you. And so there was some mistakes I made at the job and people just looking at me shaking their head and it was a horrible, horrible feeling. Right. And I was like, Daniel, you got to get this correct. Because instead of people kind of like, being there to support, mm-mm,
Wow.
they were kind of happy for the downfall. So
Wow.
there were some things where I had to correct, say, okay, Daniel, God has given you this gift of leadership and doing things in the spirit of excellence. You know, you still need to keep that. That's what God has given you. But you have to shift your mindset when you want to be this leader, be a better connector of people. The word I'm looking for is empathy. That's what I was lacking. It was the empathy piece,
Mm.
And so what had to learn, I gotta understand where people are at. I have to meet them where they at. I have to feel what they're going through, even though I'm not going through it. I have to feel it as if I'm going through it right with them. Whether they going through a divorce, whether they lost a baby, whether they just sick, right? Have a disease, or I have to feel what that may feel like. So I've learned how to really empathize with people. That their pain becomes my pain.
Now,
When they're
how do you
crying,
learn
shoot.
that?
Say that
How do
again.
you learn? How do you learn that? How do you cultivate
Dr.
empathy?
Sherilyn, to be quite honest, I want to be the best leader possible. I want to reach whatever my full potential is in this life. I want to please God, and I want to be able to be all that He has called me to be. And that gift of leadership, anything I do, I put my heart into it. Whether it's sports, music, I put my heart into it. This is no different. I'm all in. I want to be the best leader. That's relationship, communicating, empathizing, of course, knowledge. You got to know some stuff. Now
Really?
you got to be able to
Really?
lead through knowledge as well,
Oh.
right? So knowledge and being able to have vision and make good decisions and good judgment calls, right? I want to be able to do all that well. And when I do make mistakes, because there gonna be more mistakes I'm gonna make, right? I understand that this is a learning experience. What did I learn from the mistake?
That's good.
Right? You don't win or lose, you win or learn.
That's good. Okay,
Right? And
John
so
Maxwell.
I don't know where that came. It's just who God has called me to be. And so whatever gift He has given me, I've always been that type of person. I want to use it to its fullest, and I want to do it well.
Perfect. Wow, that's incredible. I can feel the passion there. So I can only imagine the teams that you work with, the people that you work with, they've got to be energized and invigorated by the energy and I'm going to say the motion, the movement that you bring right to that particular team and organization because you feel it. I mean, it really comes through and shines through that you really mean every single word that you say. So, who inspires you? Is there a leader? I see John Maxwell behind you. Is
Yeah.
there a leader who inspires you, or the top three, or a book that inspires you?
Ah, okay. My dad.
I knew you were going to say him. That's why I had to go ahead and give you. For those of us who don't know your dad.
Yeah. Bishop James Jones,
Okay.
after True Foundation Church. But yeah, my dad, he kind of laid that groundwork of what it is to be a man.
Wow.
And I think he did it well. Married I lost my mom in 2011, so they were married almost 40 years before she passed, and then 5 years later, God blessed him to remarry. But just him as a husband, I know what a husband's supposed to be. I know what it looked like because of him. As a father, I know what it looked like. Because of him. Provider, protector, all that. And so he led or he's continuing to lead. Let me put it that way, because he's still dropping gems for me. I'm still like my father is 76 years old. He just hit 76 on September 11th. He'll hit 76 again October 11th. Whole different story. That's another story, right? He got two birthdays, right? So, he's still teaching me. So that's my first leader, my first person I look up to and really look for guidance and mentorship and all that. So another one is John Maxwell. John Maxwell, he did a just outstanding job from moving from ministry, leading in ministry, to teaching leaders all across the world, transforming countries. I love his books. Of course, I haven't read them all, but
Right.
I would suggest the first book. If someone is aspiring to be a really great leader, the first book they should read, I think, is it behind me? Yep. The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. That's the first book they should read. Right? It's going to really break it down what it means to be a leader, right? The law of the lid, the law of buy-in, all that is just so good. But those would be my first two, and then I follow other different men of God in ministry and other people in the speaker and public speaking worlds. Eric Thomas, Jeremy Anderson. So I follow them as well. But me is just reading books and reading the Word and allowing God to just continue to shape me and mold me, remove things out of me that's not supposed to be in me, right? So He can pour more things into me, and following the right people. Again, that's my father, John Maxwell through his books, Eric Thomas. I'm just, I pull from so many different sources, but those I would say, probably my top three.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, anything that leaders should avoid. We have all of the things that they should do, but
Mm.
what are some things that you've seen that they truly should avoid? If you had to give us maybe one or two.
Comparison.
Oh, that's good. I wasn't expecting that one, but that's why you're here.
The
That's
comparison
good.
game, right? Be who God has called you to be, right? And there's nothing wrong with looking at different people and gleaning from them and learning from them. but you can't be them. You can only be you. And you should only want to be you. Because guess what? Nobody in the world can be you. So that's why God created you. So you can be you, so people can glean from you.
Right.
So the comparison game, it can kill your movement, it can kill your progress because you may not have reached a certain level. Listen, stay away from comparing yourself. You may not be, nobody started at the top. Nobody. Everyone has a story.
Right.
And you better be glad you probably didn't go through some of the things they went through, right, to get to where they at, right? So enjoy your journey. Understand your journey is for you, right? And embrace your journey. And so I would say avoid the comparison game because you don't want to it would discourage you. It will halt your progress. Sometimes you will become stagnant, right? And they say there's a lot of countries I like to visit, a lot of nations, but one nation I don't want to visit is stagnation, right? So the comparison game. The other one is, and I think this is real simple for me. It's easier said than done, right? Drama, drama, mess. Leaders cannot afford to be a part of drama, to be a part of mess, to be a part of stuff that really don't even concern you.
Give me an example.
Hmm.
Because some
So,
people may not realize that they get themselves into drama and mess. And so I want us to be clear.
okay, okay. When someone brings you a story, they come to you, they want to pick your ear, pick your brain about something, that happened on the other side of the church or the other side of the company or the other side of the office. They want to bring you some things. And sometimes they want to pick your brain or so-called pick your brain, but what they really looking for is you to say something negative back about the situation. So I call it a trick bag, right? Don't get caught up in the trick bag.
Agreed.
So a leader, you have to be able to discern and see through that especially that person, if they bring it to you, guess who else they're gonna bring it to? Everybody else. So you have to watch what you say, how you respond. So don't get involved with the drama or the mess or get caught up in the trick bag. What you want to make sure that you do is whatever response you give, or answer you give, make sure it's professional. Make sure it's of sound doctrine and not sometimes really give like a personal opinion when I mean like, yeah, that person's messy or that person just need to leave, that person need to quit. Avoid those statements.
Good. That's good stuff.
Avoid them. Give them your professional opinion, right? Or advice, or the decision or the route you may handle things, but don't down talk no one because they can turn around and tell someone else your personal thoughts and now you caught up in the mess. So you
Right.
want to avoid the trick bag.
Avoid the trick bag. Awesome. 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 Well, thank you so much. You've given us a wealth of information today. Anything that you want to leave us before we wrap?
Yeah, I do. Listen, if you all need some coaching, leadership development for your team, your company, your church, your business, your corporation, you need me to come in to work with your team to do some leadership development sessions. I'm here for you. I would love to do it. You can reach out to me at 312-945-7796. Again, that's my business line. Again, that's 312-945-7796. You can also contact me through my website. That's onemotionnow.com. OneMotionNow. Onemotionnow.com.
Thank you so much, Elder Jones. You've been absolutely amazing today. You've given us some information. We're staying out of trick bags. We are building relationships with our people. We're becoming more vulnerable. We're displaying empathy and really working to grow our people. Thank you so much for the wealth of information that you share with us. We will talk soon. You don't lead like everyone else, so your resources shouldn't look like everyone else's. I created the Game Changer Leadership Collection for high impact leaders like you, visionaries, change agents, decision makers who lead with intention and influence. This free high impact resource pulls from my leadership arsenal and delivers immediate actionable insights you can use right now to elevate your influence, lead with conviction, and drive lasting transformation. It's not just a toolkit, it's your first step toward leading at the level you were born for. Let me show you what's inside. The Leadership Edge Sampler. It's a preview of my 10 daily power skills to sharpen your influence and impact. The Influence Language Mini Guide. Essential phrases to increase your authority and build trust in every room you walk into. The Leadership Blind Spot Snapshot. Because the greatest risk are the ones we don't see. The power of one visual aid. A reminder that even one decision, one tone, or one conversation can shift a team or stall a movement. The Executive Briefing Checklist, a go-to tool for high-stakes communication that drives clarity and alignment. The 5-minute accountability brief, a no-fluff framework to build a culture of ownership fast. And we have the Game Changer Ascension Model Overview, my proprietary leadership growth map to help you scale your influence with intention. These are the very same tools I use with executives, culture shapers, and elite teams, leaders who know what's at stake and aren't here to play small. Because when you're called to shift systems, influence nations, and build legacies, you can't afford to lead on autopilot. This is where your next level begins. Download the Game Changer Leadership Collection today. It's free, it's strategic, and it's built for leaders who are born to shift the game. I'm Dr. Sherilyn Payne, and this is your Leadership Edge. Thank you for joining me on the Game Changer with Dr. Sherilyn, where we don't follow trends, we set them, and we don't just lead teams, we shift legacies. If today's message challenged, stretched, or inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag it, lead through it. Because real leaders don't just consume wisdom, they multiply it. Want to go deeper? Subscribe to the Ultra Influential newsletter for exclusive tools, behind-the-scenes strategy, and weekly mindset shifts for the leader ready to move nations, markets, and minds. Visit www.smpistrategies.com or send a note to leadership@smpistrategies.com. And if you're ready for next level coaching or consulting that positions you as the right leader at the right time in the right place, let's talk. This is what we do, and we do it with precision, power, and purpose. Remember, change isn't just something you lead, it's something you become. Stay bold, stay brilliant, stay a game changer.